Welcome to this third lecture series on operations management. Today in this series, we will be taking a very important topic which is location planning. We have been talking about various aspects of operations management in the past two lecture series. So, location planning, for example, where you want to set up your plant. It may be a manufacturing plant, it may be a retail store, it may be your warehouse or distribution center, it may be selecting a location for your bank, it may be selecting the location for an insurance company, it may be selecting a location for your school, college. So anything, because every organization requires some processes and that processes constitute operations management. So therefore, it can be even a shop, it can be location of a museum, it can be location of a temple, it can be location of any religious place or any social organization. So location planning is very important. So let us see what are the various characteristics of a location and how it should match your requirements. So here we will be studying why that location decisions arise when new facility is established, whenever you are expanding, that is expansion of existing facility, growing volume of business, dispersal of industry due to industrial policy, political, legal, social change, shift in geography of demand. So number one, if you want to set up any new facility or new establishment or a new organization, so you need to select the location, or sometimes it's an already existing business, so you want to expand your business, so you are searching for a new location. For example, there is a hospital and this hospital wants to set up a second branch of this hospital, so that means they are expanding. Third, we said that growing volume of business, because your volumes of business are growing. So there are so many reasons that you need to go for other locations. Or for example, sometimes it may happen that, for example, earlier you were running some industrial unit. So now that area has fallen into the city limits. So now because of the change of legislation, change of law, the government wants you to shift your industry to the outskirts of the city. So therefore, because the industrial policy or the city policy has changed, so you need to relocate your unit. So then there are political policy changes, legal considerations are there because of environmental laws. There are some social changes because the residents of that area or inhabitants of those areas are objecting to the plant. So there are so many reasons. And sometimes it may also happen that currently you were running suppose a business in one area. Now there is a shift in the geography of demand. That place, totally the demographics of that region has changed, and so now you need to move to another location. So these are various reasons. So we will be discussing various other reasons in detail. So factors, what are the factors which affect the territory selection? Number one, markets, raw material and supplies, transportation facilities, manpower supply, infrastructure, legislation and taxation, climate. So why you will select to set up a particular departmental store? Because you find that there are market for it, there are people living over there. So accordingly you have to select your location. For example, if suppose somebody wants to set up a high price branded showroom, so it may be successful in a mall, it may not be successful in the bylanes of the town, in the old city limits. So therefore you have to find what is the appropriate market for my product. Then if you have to set up a industry, then you have to see that the raw materials are available, the supplies, other supplies are available over there or not. Then you also have to see whether transportation facilities are there or not. So you have to select that site. Then labor is available. If it is frontline labor, skilled labor, there are many managerial level workers. So all kinds of people, whether they are available or not. That is why, if it is an IT industry, so you see that IT industry is concentrated in certain pockets of the country. If you talk about country like India, you have IT pockets, you have Bangalore, you have Hyderabad, you have Chennai, you have Pune, you have Gurugram or Noida, Delhi. So there are certain areas where IT professionals are available. So similarly, you find that steel industry will be there in certain areas of the country. So there the raw material is also available, and accordingly the skilled labor is also available. Then you have to see various other infrastructure is also required. You need broadband infrastructure, you need roads, highways. If you have number of people working for your organization, so for them there is a requirement for schools for their children, there should be hospitals, dispensary, and other infrastructure should be available over there. So you have to see, many times we have to select a location looking at the legislation, what is the rule. If you talk about any country, there are states. In India also we have a federal structure. We have a union government and we have state governments in every state. So every state may have a slightly different legislation. So accordingly, whether it is favorable, the climate over there is favorable to the industry or not. So you have to see all those things. Then there might be some change in taxation from one state to another state. Although today you have GST, which is one tax, one nation, but still there are some local taxes which may be different. Then you have to see the climate. By climate, we not only mean by geographical climate, whether it is hot weather, cold weather, but also the industrial climate over there, whether the industrial climate is conducive or not. So all those things have to be looked into. Now, there are other factors also besides that. Community facilities, waste disposal, community attitude, ecology and pollution, size of the site, topography of the region, transportation facilities, then supporting industry and services, and cost of the land. So for example, as I said earlier, community facilities, whether there are markets, if you will have employees, workers with you, so they need markets, they need grocery shops over there, they need all kinds of shops over there. They need dispensary, they need school facilities, college facilities for their children, so on and so forth. Then today the government is very strict regarding waste disposal. You cannot just emit your waste, whether it is waste through your water, waste through gases, so through liquid, through gases or solid waste, it has to be properly treated, and then only it has to be emitted in the environment or in the nearby fields or in the nearby drainage, so that it's not harmful to the flora and fauna, it's not harmful to the people living in that area. Then community attitude also you have to see. If you see, there have been instances wherein the people living in that vicinity have objected to the pollution coming out from that industry. So there have been instances, for example, if you take the example of Tamil Nadu, there is a place called Tuticorin. There is a plant set up by the Vedanta group, that is, or the Sterlite group. So they are making some metals over there, but there was some pollution and the local residents objected to it, and the people, the groups over there, they moved the courts, and ultimately the Supreme Court passed an order to close that industry, and it's not running even today. So community attitude also has to be there. Similarly, let me take another very simple example and very different example. Suppose somebody wants to set up a banquet hall for marriage purposes, for party purposes, and as you know, if there will be banquet, there will be functions, there will be marriage functions, so there will be loud music and all. So if it is situated in some residential area nearby, so it will cause a lot of noise pollution. So the people there may object to such kind of banquet hall. So therefore you have to see all those things. So ecology and pollution we have already talked about. Size of the site. Many times the organizations buy a very big site, a very big piece of land, wherein the scope of the business is very small over there, and vice versa. Sometimes they buy a very small site and afterwards the scope of the business is so huge that they have to shift to another location. So it doesn't serve the purpose. So then you have to see the topography of the region. Topography, what is the slope of the land over there? Is it a hilly area? So what kind of area is there? What will be the happen if transportation of the goods will be there? Sometimes the area is a low-lying area, and whenever there is heavy rains, so your plant, your factory or your business premises get flooded. So you have to see all those things. You have to also see supporting industries and services in the nearby area. Supporting industries means many times we call them ancillary units. Ancillary units are those industries which are supplying only to the principal plant, to the main plant. They are only dependent on the main plant. So they are called ancillary units. Then besides that, there are other industries also to supply you other components, other plants, parts, other raw materials. Because one industry cannot make everything. So if it is, let's say if it is a company called Maruti Suzuki Limited, so it is making so many models of cars. So it is not making each and every part over there. So some of the parts they make themselves, but some of the parts they procure from outside. So they should have those industries which are supplying them, say some is supplying them shock absorbers, some is supplying them lights, some of them are supplying them gears, some of them are supplying carburetors. So they should be preferably in the nearby vicinity, so that the cost, logistic cost is reduced. And then of course you have to see the cost of the land. So that is why if somebody wants to set up a very large industry, so huge tract of land is required. So number one, those lands will not be available in the cities. In big cities, lands are not there. So they have to select the site, far away from the city limits. And then there are legislation also. So there also you have to see what is the costing of the land. So accordingly you have to see all those things. So now I have been talking about facility location, but from any exam point of view, if somebody asks you the definition of what is a facility location, so we say that location from where firms set up their operations is called facility location. So as I gave you the example earlier. So what is the importance of facility location? If you see on the slide, choosing a location can have serious business implications, as the existence of the organization depends upon choosing the most profitable and optimum location, and a complete analysis of the location has to be done. So today we will be learning about the theoretical aspects of selecting a location, the subjective aspects of selecting a location, and also we will be learning the mathematical aspects of analyzing a location, right? So therefore location is very important many times for the success of any organization, for the success of any business. So as I have been saying in my earlier lecture series also, you may employ the best of management techniques, you may apply the best of formulas to your analysis, but if your basic location is wrong, nothing may work out. So therefore this is the most important part. So why is it important to analyze the facility location? So analysis of a location is the base of all the operations conducted in the organization, as all the pricing and other decisions are based on a thorough analysis of location. So this is what we are going to learn about it, that how to do those thorough analysis of location. So when an organization has to take decision on facility location, so as we have said earlier, whenever you are setting up a new business, or when the expansion of an existing plant is done at another location, or when a lease of the existing location is not renewed, or for social and economic reasons like social disturbances. So sometimes it happens that a hospital, it has happened earlier also, that a hospital is running on a land which is on lease to them. The lease may be for say 25 years, 50 years, sometimes the lease are for 100 years also, but there comes a time when the lease is completing, and the lease is not being renewed either by the government or by a private party. So there is no other option to shift the location, right? So therefore, what are the competing imperatives impacting location? The need to produce close to the customer due to time-based competition, trade agreements and shipping cost. So obviously, this makes business sense. And the need to locate near the appropriate labor pool to take advantage of low wage costs and high technical skills. So therefore, it becomes imperative, it is prudent to select your location, so where either the markets are there, customers are there, and also where the labor is available at a reasonable cost and skilled labor is available. So that is very important. So what are the issues in facility location? So once again, proximity to the customer, business climate. It should not be that a lot of unions are there and all. So tax concessions, etc. Total costs, you have to see your fixed cost and variable costs, about which we have talked earlier. You have to see whether infrastructure, water facility, road, transport, telecommunications, schooling for the kids of your employees are available or not. Then quality of labor is important. It's not just labor, so that you get skilled labor at a reasonable cost, and there are fairly good industrial relations. And yes, suppliers also should be available in that vicinity, and of course you have to take into consideration the transportation costs also and several other facilities. So one by one we will just talk about to you, what are the other aspects of location. Market proximity we are talking about. If somebody is running a manufacturing plant, so it depends on if the goods are perishable goods, let's say food items, etc., or somebody is making fast moving consumer goods, so accordingly the market proximity will depend. Retailing, again, channel of distribution and clustered shops. So here, for example, suppose a manufacturing company is making bread, it's making some food item, making milk. So nearby location, because its market proximity should be in the within few kilometers. If a company is making cars, so you cannot expect that cars will be that plant will be set up in every state. The company may be having one plant in one country, so because it's not a perishable item, so it can be transported to other parts of the country. So it depends on the type of product which you are manufacturing. So that will determine the market proximity. So therefore, you have to see availability of the labor, and labor laws are also important. What are the labor laws? Connectivity we have been talking about. That connectivity should be connected with proper transportation. For example, if we see in this slide, it's written that it's very important that the various means of transport are properly connected in a well-knit network. For example, when oil is imported in India from seaports, oil tankers are then transported to various refineries through the means of railways, etc. So we need multimodal transport. It's not just one transport. So goods arrive, let's say, by ship, but they will be arriving at the port. From the port, they will be transported further by road or by railways. So there are a lot of connectivity is required for different kinds of transport. So that is also very important. Then you have to see availability of means. There are various means of transport that are available in an important factor that is considered while choosing a location. So as we talked about, highways, connecting roads, railways, seaports, etc. These are all necessary for any country. Raw materials availability should also be there. So abundant and easy availability of raw materials can on most occasions lure the companies to shift manufacturing operations to such location. For example, you will find steel plants in Odisha, you will find steel plants in Jharkhand, because there the raw materials are available. Then you have to see also another factor called value density. What is value density? Cost of transportation versus weight of raw material. Sometimes when the raw material is light in weight, then the company can choose to set their operations anywhere else based on other criteria. For example, textile mills are set up at different locations as cost of transport of cotton is less. So if it is a very heavy item, because transportation cost depends on the weight of the material. So if the weight of the material is light, then some kind of leverage can be there, some kind of flexibility can be there in choosing the transportation. So we have to see all angles. So it's not a hard and fast rule that it's always should be near to the raw material. So it depends on what kind of raw material it's there and what will be the cost. So cost depends on the weight, that is the value density of the material. Then you have to see the safety requirements also. So safety requirements, that is depends on the nature of the product. So for example, if the nature of the product is harmful, then adequate safety requirements have to be kept in mind before deciding the location for operation. For example, if a nuclear power plant has to be set up, it should be away from the civilization. So this is very necessary and this is very true. So we have seen in our country, there was a big disaster which happened, Bhopal gas tragedy which happened in December 1984. But still today, after so many years, its repercussions, people living in that area are still facing. So hundreds and thousands of people died because of the poisonous gas which emanated from the plant. And nuclear plants are by their very nature, if some kind of transmission is there, some kind of leakage is there, it can cause havoc in that area. So you have to select your location very far away from the inhabitants living in those areas. And otherwise also, number one, permission will also not be granted by the government, but as a business owner, one should take those aspects into consideration. Whether the business owner is a private entrepreneur or whether that business owner is the government. So therefore we can say that if the project site is near populous area, then more concerns for safety have to be kept in mind so that any accident on location does not adversely affect the population. So for example, Bhopal gas tragedy which we just talked about. Now there are other political and cultural aspects also which one can see. Sometimes there can be a dissonance among the public. So as I have given you other examples also, there has been an example of Tata's Nano, when Tata wanted to set up its factory to manufacture cars of Nano. So as it is written on the slide, as Tata's Nano faced a lot of criticism and opposition from the people of West Bengal for occupying special economic zone land in the Singur district. So then there are political and economic situations. Pre-liberalization of the economy, there was a lot of restrictions on businesses, so this led to restriction of many foreign companies in India. So in the case of Nano, Tata Group had to shift their plant from West Bengal to Gujarat, but by that time it was already very late. So therefore when they brought out their car in the market, it was very late, the consumer taste had changed by then, that time. So their car could not be successful. So we have seen this. So when we are setting up any business or any organization in a place, we have to see that the people do not have any dissonance of any form. And of course, the selection of the location also depends on political factors, economic situation, the legal aspects, etc. So like we have been talking about in our earlier lectures also, the capacity of the plant also has to be carefully selected. So as per the capacity of the plant, you have to choose your location. Let's say if you want to set up a 50-ton cement plant, the capacity will be different. If you are setting up a 500 ton plant, the capacity will be much more. So the requirement of the land will be much more. So capacity, if the size of the project is massive, then it must plan its operation at a place which has a lot of unutilized land and is at the strategic location. For example, Jamnagar refinery, Reliance Industries Limited has got a huge refinery, huge petrochemical plant in Jamnagar. So there, and then expansion, if the company has expansion plans due in future, then it must occupy a location which has a room for expansion. So therefore, expansion, you must have scope for expanding your plant also. Right. So we will be talking about more such aspects. Thank you.